Hey, today we're going to talk about the Trump verdict. And so you're going to hear some things that I recently shared with my church. But as you listen to what I shared with my church, I want you to understand something. Truth doesn't matter to the folks that are doing all of this. It doesn't matter. And so once you understand that truth doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that, oh, well, I don't have to get angry anymore. No, you just need to know what you're up against. Because in the idea, in the Coliseum of ideas, in the framework of ideology, a lie never wants truth to come to the plate because truth will always win because truth is truth. And so it's not about speaking the truth and saying that we just need equal say. They never give us equal say because when truth gets level footing, it wins. And so what do they have to do? They have to shut down truth. And so once you understand that, you kind of get the idea of what corruption and deception is coming from, and you understand why we are in the place that we're in. And I'm going to share some other reasons about why this verdict shouldn't shock us, especially understanding that truth doesn't matter. I just want to address a couple things. It's always interesting. I get, and when I say this, I am by no means what you would call a social media influencer. Okay, so, but because there are people out there, whenever I get out and about, I get asked questions, and and so this week, with the events that transpired in our country, I got asked a lot of questions. So here, I just want to, and I'm often, here's what I want to say about this. I'm often shocked by what shocks people. Y'all ever been away? I'm often shocked. Like when, and I'm talking about the verdict with Trump that came out. It didn't shock me. I expected it because of what was going on. And so understanding what's happening in our world today, that if you're paying attention and you have any discernibility about Christ and His Word, you recognize some things. So why didn't it shock me? So I want to give you three things that just I'm paying attention to before I get to the message today. Some of you are getting worried about this. He's going to give me a three-pointer before he gets to the other points. You'll be all right. One, you realize that we are in something that our nation calls as Pride Month. We set aside a whole month, and by the way, it's one of 3 months that we set aside and 28 days that we set aside to recognize the LGBTQ plus community. So we recognize that which God has condemned, and we celebrate it. See, it's not just about, we've been told, well, we just need to accept. They don't want acceptance, they want affirmation. And they want to come alongside of that. And so we're asking God to bless a country that has no regard for God. So when people always ask me, man, God's going to take His hand off America, I'm here to tell you, it's gone. Now, I don't say that with any pride or anything like that. I'm not saying that you can't have God's hand in your life. I'm just saying right now, you're asking God to bless a country that no longer concerns itself with God and that what we do and how we live. Anti-Semitism is growing rapidly. So I said, what is even anti-Semitism? It's the hatred of the Jewish people. So in this regard, America is distancing itself from the Jewish people right now, Israel. Our President Biden, Friday, brought forth a plan that he said came from Israel, which has now been confirmed came from Hamas, which is a terrorist group, that gave him a ceasefire plan in which Israel would immediately stop fighting in Gaza against Hamas, who is a terrorist organization, and Hezbollah, who is a terrorist organization. It's already been proven that all through Gaza they have found terrorist tunnels. And so for the sake of humanitarian aid, by the way, his idea of you may have not been paying attention to this, his idea of a pier to get aid into Israel, into Gaza, our country spent $325 billion of tax dollars to build a pier in the Mediterranean Sea that's already fell apart. So when people go, man, we need government to focus on highways and bridges. which I believe we do, and there are good people that do that. I'm just saying, let's just pray that whoever designed the pier in Gaza is not designing everything. Okay? So this anti-Semitism that's coming up, in which we disregard Israel as a country, and the church refuses to deal with it. And the reason Nazi Germany became Nazi Germany is because the churches in Germany wouldn't speak up against Hitler when he was attacking the Jewish people. They sat there in silence. And the idea that there's a two-state solution with a country that wants the other country annihilated is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so some of you are going, I have no idea even what you're talking about right now, which is another problem. You don't even have to know about God's covenant with Israel and a biblical perspective of Israel in Scripture to know that asking a country who was attacked by terrorists to allow terrorists to move in back next door again from where they just attacked you from is insanity. I mean, you could be an atheist and hopefully have an idea of moral clarity in that. I mean, I'm just saying, if in your neighborhood, would you be excited if the HOA said, hey, listen, we're going to start allowing ISIS to have a training camp down at the rec center in the neighborhood? Nothing to worry about. That's what we're asking Israel to do. Makes no sense whatsoever. And then the other thing that's happening, why I'm not shocked, is because spiritual ignorance and indifference is so high. Somebody asked one time, hey, what do you understand about apathy? And they said, I don't even know what apathy means. And I don't know and I don't care. I mean, what we're seeing right now among those that claim, it's like being on the Titanic and planning dinner after you've struck the iceberg and wondering why everybody's asking about lifeboats. And then bragging about a ship that's unsinkable, why it's sinking. That's what we're seeing today in our country and in the spiritual landscape. I'm reading through Isaiah, and here's what I would tell you. We are not experiencing anything new. The world has had countries and nations that have experienced these things before. What we're experiencing in America is not something new. And people always ask me, hey, what does the Bible say about America and prophecy? Nothing. Because we're not involved. Now, here's what I'll tell you. I love America. By the grace of God, I was born in America. I am thankful to be. I'm a patriot. I love our country. What grieves me is a country that was started on biblical premise and principles, and history has said that regardless if you're not reading about it in your history books in a secular school, read the facts. What grieves me is that we who have been so blessed by God have gone so far away from Him. And so when I think about when people go, our leaders, understand this, they're leaders elected by people. The head scratcher for me is not that we have the leaders that we have, it's how they got there in the first place. One, people don't vote, or people are scared to it, or whatever, for whatever reason, they don't understand things. Why? I mean, I was watching something the other day about what influences who you vote for. It says it depends on the celebrity that endorses them. Here's just an indication, a little bit of the world I live in. I can say things that are biblically right. I can talk about a biblical issue. I can talk about a doctrinal issue. I can talk about all kinds of things on social media. You know the last two posts that have gotten the most reaction, the harshest reactions, when I took on Taylor Swift and Jelly Roll.
I got more pushback. I mean, I got called more names. And I don't really pay attention to the comments, but Lee and Alex tell me about them, so just in case I need to know. It's like my father-in-law yesterday wanted me to read an opinion thing in the Times from a lady who was mad about preachers involved in politics. He said this, because we don't take the Times. And so he gave it to me, and there was a lady up in the North Hall area that was upset about preachers talking about political issues. Now, I don't have a Carly Simon complex. Some of you have no idea what I just said. You're so vain. I bet you think this article's about you, don't you? And when she was lamenting the fact that we should stay out of politics and we should worry more about feeding the hungry. And just for the record, if she's listening, as a church, and I don't say this but for any other reason to say this is about your generosity, we give thousands of dollars to feed hungry people in our county. Between Good Samaritan and Straight Street Ministries, she specifically said there are hungry children that leave school every week, go home. That's why we support Straight Street Ministries. They feed 1,000 kids every week when they leave school on Friday. We help support that. But let's don't confuse facts with feelings. So there's this idea that we ought to stay out of politics, don't get involved, because that's just not where the church belongs. And that's exactly how Hitler came to power. So anyway, I'm reading through Isaiah right now in my Bible reading plan. Monday of this week, I read Isaiah 39 through 11. I thought, man, and this is before anything else transpired. But this is what was going on in Jerusalem at the time, in Judea, in Israel. For this is a rebellious people, false sons who refuse to listen to the instruction of the Lord, who say to the seers, you must not see visions, and to the prophets, you must not prophesy to us what is right. Speak to us pleasant words, prophesy allusions, get out of the way, turn aside from the path, let us hear no more about the Holy One of Israel. In other words, don't tell us the hard stuff anymore. Preach something that sounds good. It's like going to your doctor and saying, look, I know I'm overweight. I know I got some things going on, but can you just tell me how good my shirt looks? Find something positive to say. I mean, that's kind of what, isn't it? Isn't it? You know, it's like your child can't read. They're in the 10th grade. They can't read, and so you go in there and you talk to the teacher. I said, listen, I don't want to beat you up. You're doing hard. You're a great teacher. Let's forget about the whole reading thing. You have a really nice looking bulletin board. Is that what you do? It's okay. Reading's overrated. Is that what you do? Or do you want to talk to them about why your child can't read? First, if you wait to the 10th grade, you're already in a mess. Okay? So here's what I'd just say as to, if you're shocked that a corrupt judge and a corrupt courtroom and a corrupt system came up with a corrupt verdict, where have you been? And I would say this not in hysteria, but in reality. It has been said all throughout time. If they can do it to him, they will do it to you and me. And that's where we're headed. So, what do we do, preacher? And next week I think I want to preach a sermon, what does wake up look like? I'm really tired of this term. Wake up, you better wake up. To what? To what? Everybody got excited. Well, you ticked us off now. That's what I've heard. You've awakened a sleeping giant. I'm just curious, maybe for a 24-hour news cycle. Because that's how we live. It's a crisis until it's no longer a crisis or another crisis comes along. Okay? I'm just saying, we have such a minimal attention span. We forget so easily. COVID. I just remember COVID. Couldn't go to church. I'll never take my church for granted again. Whenever they open up, I promise you, I'll never take it for granted again. Unless we get a really good vacation week or our travel ball season comes up quicker. All right, moving along. Philippians chapter 3. So I just put that out there for you. And if this is your first time with us, and you ask somebody and you go, is it always like that? Just on days that begin with S. Like Sunday. And it's not to be belligerent. It's just that I believe the Bible tells us what's going on. And I feel as your shepherd, you need to understand. And I want you to understand. And again, not to be political. Because Lord knows we can't have that in the church. Not to be political, but that you be biblical and you understand what's happening.
Again, thanks for listening to us today. I really do hope that you'll like, share, subscribe to this podcast, either on YouTube, Rumble, follow us on Instagram, Facebook. You can even follow me on Twitter. I don't post that much there because it's a whole nother world in Twitter world, but you can certainly find me there when I do post. So again, thank you, and thanks for your support of Bucky Kennedy Ministries.
For more content like today's podcast, click right here. For sermons, click right here. And again, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Have a blessed day.